I want to bring with you today about Rebbetzin Chana, the Rebbe's mother, and this will also be Le'ilu Nishmas, all those that lost their lives, although the real Yahrtzeit, of course, is Yahrtzeit, not October 7th. But nevertheless, since the world is celebrating it, so that means that we as Yidden have to participate and elevate and do what we can. So the Rebbe's mother, Rebbetzin Chana Schneerson, was actually born to her father. His name was Shloima, I forget now his first name. Meir Shloima Yanovsky. Meir Shloima Yanovsky. And Meir Shloima Yanovsky was a son-in-law of Reb Avram David Lavut. Who is Reb Avram David Lavut? Reb Avram David Lavut was a Rav in Nikolaev, I believe, which they call it Mikolaev with an M, and you read about it on the news. There's been bombings there and fighting and all that. And he was the Mechaber, the author of the Sefer called Shara Koilel. Now, Shara Koilel has a very prominent place in Chabad scholarship and literature. Because Shara Koilel, what does it mean, Shara Koilel? The general gate, the general shar. The Alter Rebbe wrote a siddur, and in the Hakdama, in the introduction, it says that he based it on all the different nuschois. In other words, the Balatanya siddur is a siddur that, although it's based on nusach Arizal, but the Alter Rebbe took it from various sources, and he had in mind every Jew. Because whatever tribe you come from, he included it somehow in his siddur. Reb Avram David Lavut took the Alter Rebbe siddur and he wrote a commentary on the siddur called Shara Koilel, the gate that's inclusive. It's Koilel, like our Koilel, right? It's all inclusive of people sitting together and studying and learning. So this was and in the Shara Koilel, he clarifies many things in the siddur that seem to be different this way. His objective is to show a halachic source for the Alter Rebbe siddur, and it's a siddur, it's a commentary on the siddur that's used until today, and the Rebbe would use it and quote from it constantly. Besides the fact that this was, the Rebbe's wife's grandfather, so it was dear to him as well. So this is the Zayda, the grandfather of Rebbetzin Chana. Her father was Reb Meir Shloima Yanovsky. And Reb Meir Shloima Yanovsky was also a Rav. After Reb Avram David Lavut passed away, his son-in-law, Reb Meir Shloima, took over his position as Rav in Nikolaev. And the Yanovskys were, I believe, Leviim, I think. And they were Bali Menagnim. They were very strong in Chabad Negina. And Chabad Negina, as we discussed over the years, is very particular and in a way different than almost all types of Jewish music, past and present and in the future. The closest thing to it that I found is Muzhitz. Muzhitz is a group of Hasidim, Muzhitz Hasidim, the Taub family. And some of their nigunim have some similarities and are also very meditative. But again, there's differences there. But overall, the Chabad Nagina is very different, and both the Zayda, her Zayda, Avram David Lavut, and her father, Meir Shloima Yanovsky, were great Bali Nagina and composers, not just people who could sing nicely, but they composed actually nigunim. Some of the nigunim that the Rebbe taught, our Rebbe taught nigunim for about 10 years, from Simchas Torah 1951, so more than 10 years, till 1964, 12, 13 years or so. Simchas Torah morning at 3, 4, 5 in the morning after Akafis, he'd go up to his room, go up to his mother-in-law, and they would have a Suda, him and his wife, a Suda's Yom Tov, and then he would come back down, and towards the end of 770, which is not the new part, closer to Kingston Avenue, but the part, I think that's closer to the other side. Anyway, he would come down, and sometimes he would stand on a milk crate, and he would teach a niggin. Usually it was one niggin per year. There was a year or two, I think, that he taught 2 nigunim. And some of those nigunim, the Chabad crowd, including elder Hasidim, or those who were children of elders Hasidim, weren't familiar with those nigunim. Now, you're talking about some venerable Chabad Hasidim that go back, to Russia and Chabad and for generations. But they didn't know these nigunim because these nigunim came from the Rebbe's grandfather, from his wife's grandfather, and her father. One of the nigunim, for example, you're probably asking which nigin. You're thinking which nigin is lechatchila riber. Ay da da ya 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 da da da. Dan da dan dan da 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 dan da dan dan da da dan 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 da dan 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 da dan da dan and da dan 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 da dan. 1, 2, 3, 4, and dan 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 dan. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? That niggin is attributed to the Rebbe's grandfather, Rebbetzin Chana's grandfather or father, or both. One of them composed it, and the Rebbe learned it as a young boy, because he would travel, and he stayed with his grandparents for a while, whatever, and he taught nigun. He learned nigunim. In addition to which, his house between him and his brothers were very melodic, and they sang nigunim. And this is attested to by the Rebbe's cousin Avram Shulansky, who became later a famous poet, I believe, in Eretz Yisrael. And Avram Shulansky lived in the same apartment building in Yahrtzeit, Dnieper, and he writes his memoirs, and he says that he remembers hearing how Reb Leivik Schneerson, the Rebbe's father, would sit with his 3 sons, and they would sing nigunim for a very long time. So the nigunim in the Rebbe's family, him and his wife, was prominent. Now, Rebbetzin Chana herself was what we call a melumedes. A melumedes means educated. She was educated in not just Torah scholarship, being the daughter and granddaughter of rabbonim, of rabbis and scholars and authors and all of that, but she herself was well educated in Torah, plus in Hebrew, dikduk, Hebrew language, Hebrew writing. And this was an anomaly at the time for a Hasidic girl from this type of family should be so knowledgeable, and we're going to use a word called cultured, with the Jewish experience. Okay? Why was it an anomaly? Because many didn't allow their daughters to do this, because it was tiptoeing on Zionism. Because the whole idea of Zionism was for the culture of Zionism should supersede Torah study. and that it's more important, to know Hebrew well, reading, writing, speaking, etc., etc. So most Hasidic people kept their kids away from that, especially girls. Now, when I say most, those that were able to do it, because we all know that most failed. They couldn't do it because the onslaught of Zionism at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 1900s, etc., was so powerful that it lured the youth into it. And as I've said many times, if you take a look even online, go online, and you'll see a picture of the grandfather with a beard down to his belly button, with a big yarmulke covering his entire head, and he looks like a tzaddik. And then put the picture of the son next to it, or the daughter, and you'll be appalled. It's like no beard. It's not about not the beard. The comparison is so strident. It's so obvious that the secularism crept in, and it just killed spiritually millions and millions of Jewish youth. So for a Rebbetzin Chana, who wasn't a boy, but what I said before is true for boys too, for men too, but was a girl, and for a girl, unfortunately, the attitude was by most, she's a girl, she doesn't have to learn as much, she can hang out with friends, she can go to the opera, go to the movies. So the breakdown, I haven't done a study, and I don't know if there is one, but it'd be interesting to see. But I would think that the impact of secularism, and Zionism, and all the isms had a greater impact on girls in a certain way than on men. But regardless of the statistics, the fact is that she had both. That means she was able to have the knowledge that the secular education, if you call it, compared to Torah, benefited her, and at the same time, she stayed strong in her commitment. And this is an anomaly, as I said. This is not. I don't want to go into it, but I could tell you about other rabbonim and rabbis, and that it wasn't the case. It was a very challenging time. So Rebbetzin Chana was a mulumedes. That's what I want to get at. That she was an educated person. In her house, when the Rebbe was growing up, I'll just give you a few examples. In the bedroom, you understand they didn't have a 21-acre house with 55 rooms, okay? In their little apartment in Yeper, in Yahrtzeit, there's one room. I mean, there was a room for the parents, I think, as far as I know, and a bedroom for the three boys, the Rebbe and his two brothers. And what did you have on the walls? Not rock stars and not other things like that. You had planets, stars, astronomy charts. This is the type of home I'm just talking now about that she had. On one hand, her husband is this goin of Torah, this mekubal. He's a Schneerson, and she comes from who she is, and at the same time, there is a sophistication of intellectualism to understand, the world around them. So the same Shalonsky that I cited before says he remembers going into his cousin's room and he saw astronomy charts. So this is the type of home that Rebbetzin Chana, who, as we all know, the mother is the mainstay of the home. It was true in her home just as in our homes. As much as Reb Leivik was Reb Leivik Schneerson, but he was a Rav, he was busy, and everything else. She was with the children, Now, Did she have an easy life? I think the answer obviously is not until she came to America in 1947. Okay? She made it out of Russia together with many other Lubavitch Chassidim, I believe in 1946, 47. She was in a DP camp. And then many of the Chassidim went over to Paris, to France. Yes, Moshe.
Ridal, sorry for interrupting. Just a question. Can you take us back again? The Rebbetzin Chana, again, where was she born and raised?
As far as I remember, she was born and raised in Nikolaev. I don't have it in front of me, but she was born and raised in Russia. Which city? I think Nikolaev.
Nikolaev is in what's today Russia or what's today Ukraine? I don't remember.
I don't either. Okay. Ask the experts.
Ukraine. It's in Ukraine.
Ukraine.
Yeah?
Oh, okay. That Velvo, thank you for being here and giving us the answers. What else? Anything else?
And that's what I wanted.
Okay. Okay.
One more question.
Quick. What?
Yeah, the Rebbetzin Chana, her family, does she trace back to any of the Rebbeim?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Again, it'd have to be, you mean any of the Lubavitch Rebbeim, right?
Yeah.
You know, as far as I know, no, but you got to research. You got to, refresh my memory. You got to look up. I haven't done that, so I can't tell you. I mean, I think not, but, if you find it otherwise,
yeah.
Remember I said I don't think so. Okay. Anyway, let's go continue. So now she had a very hard life, meaning the situation there during the 1900s, before there was the First World War. Okay, they got married, I believe, in 1909. Her and her husband became the Rav in Yahrtzeit in Dnieper in 1909, I believe. And that was a good position, a nice position. But then came World War I, 1914. Their house turned into a Chabad house. And I literally mean it. Such people like Reb Chaim Moiser from Vilna was I don't know if he was in Reb Leivik's house, but he was in Yahrtzeit for a year, and he came there and he spoke to him, and there are letters. I put some of them in my book. It was a station for people, surviving the war, needing a place to be, a refugee place. So. And the Rebbe spoke about it himself, that he remembers how his mother, in my recollection, hearing from the Rebbe by Fabrein, how his mother was so active in helping all the refugees. Yes, that's what he said. I think it was one Vav Tishrei, on the Rebbe's, his mother's Yahrtzeit, he said that, giving her the credit for taking care of refugees. Now, the Rebbe helped her. He went out and helped and bought things. So, that was in a way, it was a great time, but at the same time, it was a difficult time. Yidden were refugees, and then came the Bolshevik Revolution. I don't have to tell you what that meant. The uproar and all of that. And they still stayed there, and they still did their work, but it was difficult. And we see that. Then. Their son, their oldest son, their Rebbe, gets married in Warsaw, and she and her husband can't go. And can you imagine how they wanted to go? It was just too difficult to travel at the time, and we know how they stayed up all night, and there was a Fabringen in their house, and it was all night, it was gewaldig, but nevertheless, it's a mother. She would like to be by her son's chuppah, and she can't be there. So that's painful. And then came the situation in 1932, which many people don't know, but Reb Leivik was offered a job in Eretz Yisrael, and I believe even in Chicago. Again, I have to refresh my memory. It didn't work out. Now, why would he even accept a job if he has a kehila, congregation with a community in Yeppin, Yachtun, and Slav? Obviously, it was difficult. I don't know an answer why, but it's obvious. No food and everything else. It makes it very, very difficult. And Stalin is closing everything down, and it's communism. And then she puts up with all of the threats that her husband went through, and finally in 1939, he's incarcerated, he's taken away, and she has to schlep and bring him food, and this is not a rosy life. This is not called an easy life. And finally, then he passes away at a young age. In 1944, he passes away. And I think I told you in one of the past that, you know, how devastated she was, and she didn't go out. She was, like, in a sense, depressed. I don't know if she was depressed, but it had that feeling. And a chassid went to her, Reb Shmuel Nemaitin. I spoke a lot about him within the year, how kind of incredible thing he did. He went over to her and he says, I have a ticket for you. I want you to get on the train and leave, and you have to go. And, you know, in general, Chabad Hasidim, Russian Hasidim, I would say Russian Hasidim, Chabad Hasidim, and Schneersons in particular, were not the type to take. So he was shocked that here the situation was so difficult that she accepted a train ticket for Reb Shmuel Nemaitin, and she left, and that's how ultimately she got to Paris. So in 1947, and by the way, she got to the DP camp first, and over there too, the lack of food and hunger and disease, it was terrible. I know someone who's still alive, Baruch Hashem, who was asked by his father, Rabbi Avram Mayor, one of my mashpiyim, asked his oldest son, Rabbi Shalom Ber Drizin, to fix the little wooden door of Rebbetzin Chana, because they lived in the same area over there in the DP camp. I mean, you imagine the poverty. It's a woman who none of her children were with her. The Rebbe was in America. Her son, Yisrael Aryeh Leib, was in Eretz Yisrael, and Nebuch, her son, Beryl, was killed by the Nazis in 1942. So she's by herself, and her husband dies in 1944. She's alone. So it was a very trying time. The Rebbe came to Paris, and there's pictures of it, you've seen it, and he brought her back to America. And she writes in her memoirs. By the way, her memoirs, I believe, are in book form and online, and you owe it to yourself to read her memoirs if you want to have a bird's eye view of what was going on with Reb Leivik and herself. And all of this, you have to read her diary yourself, okay? Anyway, she comes to America, and she writes there that those were the best years in her life because she was together with her son. Anyway, so she what did she do in America? What did she do in New York? Well, pretty much she was already an older person. Um, she was in her mid-60s. And, what she did was she enjoyed being around Crown Heights, even though it was very small in 47. I mean, there was all kinds of Yidden in the 50s. And she passed away 60 years ago. Tomorrow, above Tishrei, Crown Heights, Lubavitch in Crown Heights was very small. But nevertheless, there were many, many Frum Yidden. So she got to see that, and the Rebbe visited her every single day. And that was a very big pleasure for her. She came to shul, every time, but she came to shul many times. She spent time at her machatenista, the Rebbetzin Medina, for Yom Tov and Sedarim and things like that. So from 1947 to 1964, she says basically those were the most peaceful and beautiful days of her life. And I know from various accounts, people who spoke to her, there were certain people who visited her regularly, some men, some, of course, women, that she was a very intelligent person, a sophisticated person, like the Rebbe. I'm not talking now about the Rebbe as a tzaddik, as a person, an intelligent, sophisticated person who doesn't speak about people and doesn't hoard and doesn't need to have more and more and greedy, just a person who's thinking, who's thoughtful, who's calm, who's forgiving, and who recognizes the situation on the ground. They're not a fool. They know very well they lost a husband, a young husband, and they lost a son and the two sons. Her son Aryeh passed away in 1954-52 in Liverpool. Now, of course, the Rebbe hid that from her, but I believe she knew. I don't know if she knew right away, but from 52 to 64, I believe she figured it out. And she knew that the Rebbe was hiding it from her, so she never said anything, okay? So officially, we say she didn't know, but I doubt it. And, the Rebbe had no children. Her youngest son, Beryl, was murdered. And her son, Yisrael Aryeh, had a child. But, I don't know if she even ever saw the grandchildren. She probably saw if they came to America because they lived in Eretz Yisrael, in England, Eretz Yisrael, and it wasn't Hasidic Jews walking around like her son and her husband and from where she came from real steep Lubavitch, so, you know how it is. Everyone is good and everyone's wonderful, but this is what you're used to. Yes, Moshe. Moshe, what's with the balloons?
I don't know. I can't figure it out. I don't know what's with the balloons. I'm sorry.
I thought you were trying to get my attention. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
My understanding, from speaking to my sons, especially my oldest son who spent time in Rehovot, my understanding is that the granddaughter of, or I should say the granddaughter of the Rebbetzin Chana from Yisrael Aryeh, I don't know if she's still alive or not, but I think that her children I believe, or child are in Rehovot. And from what?
I met her on a plane.
Okay.
I don't know what, I don't know, I think about these things. I say, Hashem, you have a funny sense of humor. This little Chaim Dalfin is sitting on a plane going to Eretz Yisrael sometime in the last 10, 20 years ago. And who sits in front of me? No, sorry, take that back. I didn't meet her. I met her best friend. And she communicated to me certain things. So it was like I was talking to her. I take that back. I did not meet her. But she is alive. Not his daughter. Wait a minute. His daughter is alive. She's alive. She's, because he passed away very early. He didn't get married till 1939. I don't think she was born in 1944 or 45, so she's, I believe she's still alive. In fact, there was some pictures. She was in Kfar Chabad in the last year or two at her wedding. Is there anything else you wanted to say about that, or that's it?
That's all.
Yeah. So she has children. I think that if not both or one is from modern Mizrahi, whatever, keep us rugan, all that, and that's the the little family nachas that Rebbetzin Chana has today. I just want to conclude that at her levaya, when she passed away, was Shabbos. And it was Shabbos during the Farbrengen. It was Shabbos Shuvah. So the Rebbe Farbrengen always Shabbos Shuvah. And after the Farbrengen, the Rebbe went to his room. The secretary say he did not shed a tear because he's not allowed to on Shabbos. But once a Shabbos, of course, and I think he went into a taxi, took him to the hospital, and he was there still during Shabbos in the afternoon, late afternoon, and he faced the window. He looked out the window, and then the next day was her levaya. I believe there are clips of that online, and she's buried at the Oyel, near the Lubavitch, the Rebbetzin Medina, the Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka, not far away. Opposite her is a Yid, Reb Dov Ber Yunik, Rabbi Yunik, you might have heard the name. He got out from Russia using the passport, I think, of one of her sons, of Betel, and he was officially her son. That's how he got out. So after his passing, and he was very close to her, he was like an assistant in her older age. He helped her. So his tombstone faces, there's a walkway in the middle at the oil. She's here and he is here, like that. So this is just brief, a little bit about her. You can tune in. I don't know if you'll be up. I'll be in Pittsburgh tomorrow night, Farbrengen. So maybe we'll share some more thoughts, but I did want to give you first crack at it. And may your neshama have an aliyah. Chana.
Which day is your Yahrtzeit?
Tomorrow, tonight, Tishrei. Chana Bas Meir Shloima, that's her name. And let her bring for Klal Yisrael now the big Yeshua and Bracha. That number one, all of this stop, this shooting and missiles and hacking, and it's so, my heart goes out for you. I couldn't sleep last night. Before I knew about Kfar Chabad, it's like, what kind of peace is this? How can you can't walk and go places. You don't know if something's going to land on your head or near you. And we have to keep on davening to Hashem and demanding by Hashem, stop this. It's a hidden bracha of greatness, we know. But we need some calm now, And the Eibishter will have Rachmanis al Klal Yisrael, and through our good deeds of learning, giving tzedakah, especially very important, give tzedakah this week. Said as he made tshuva, Mavina Sroya Gzeira, Tefillah, tshuva, Tefillah, tzedakah, and the Eibishter will take us out of this gullus. He'll bring Mashiach, and we'll all be together. Have a great day, everyone. Tomorrow we'll learn with Hashem, and we'll learn some Tanya.
Is there a class for women today?
No. Sei gesund, Tatzlacha. Bye-bye.
Amen. Kol tuv shkol.